Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. It's Global GEG coming at you today, and it's Devin Rossiter and Clay Smith. Welcome to Build Your Own Voice App. Clay, how's it going for you, sir?
You know, hunkering down.
I asked. That's why I asked.
How about you?
I got to say, it's been pretty crazy. There's been so much happening in the last couple of weeks. Things are finally starting to settle in. We're building up for ISTE coming up in another couple of weeks. Yeah. Getting ready here in the States for the Thanksgiving break. Hopefully everybody is able to stay safe and stay connected. It's just been a really interesting time to see all these different ways that we've been able to kind of stay in touch. I've been able to interact just this morning with some classes up in Canada. Some reporters in the Washington area, and covering a lot of different conversations with people. And it's been really remarkable to see the new ways that people have really put together in order to stay in contact, and as well as to interact with the tools around them more efficiently. And I feel like that's a central theme into what we're going to talk about today with this session.
Definitely. Yeah. It's the first, that we're really forced with having to implement technology in totally different ways than we've ever had to before. It's no longer just face-to-face that we're starting to do this in a much more virtual environment. Like we're using StreamYard right now, that we're actually coming together here. So it's really cool to see what is developing, what is happening here. So I'm looking forward to a conversation around this.
Well, let's take a moment to kind of introduce ourselves for our viewers who may not be too familiar with us. Clay, why don't you go ahead and start?
Yeah, I'm Clay Smith with coming from New York City, innovator representing London 19. Also go by Clay Codes. I do a lot of extension, add-on development, and other pieces. And that's kind of my wheelhouse is playing around with Google development things.
And I'm Devin Rossiter. I'm an academic coach here in Bakersfield, California, a recent two-time Jeopardy champion. I'm going to be able to say that for the rest of my life, ladies and gentlemen. Also, you're going to see, we're going to ask you to be a part of that. And by the way, while we're talking to start things off, make sure you have a chance to visit that bit.ly, fill that out. That's going to help us later on in our session. So make sure you have a chance. We're going to ask you to create a hometown trivia question for us, and you'll see how that kind of factors into our work a little bit later on. I'm a member, as is Clay, of the London cohort from 2019 of the Google for Education Certified Innovator Program, certified trainer, hit up your level 1 and 2 teacher certifications as well. Still paying on that coach one. That one is coming down the line. I'm also a co-host of our local math education homework help show here in Bakersfield, Do the Math. Been doing that for about 7 years. And there are so many different elements that I've been able to jump into and dive in and develop with regards to math and ed tech over the last few years. And when Clay and I started talking about presenting this, we looked at voice apps as a generally underdeveloped sector of education. And there's a lot of conversations and there's a lot of utility around these right now, but nobody's really pinned down exactly how to use this to reach students and learners.
If I had $1 every time a kid asked me a question, and it's like, oh, well, let me give you the answer. But if you think about it, how awesome is it that kids can now ask Google a question, or ask Echo or Alexa, or, all those, Siri, a question and get an answer. It's like, it's so awesome.
So what we're going to do a little bit later on is kind of flip the script. It's great when kids have questions because they have this unlimited resource. But what happens when the voice assistants, when the voice app have the questions? How does that change the game for students as far as how they interact with their content? So as we begin, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of an activity. And your job right here is actually really easy for those of you watching. I'm going to ask you to listen. I'm going to ask you to listen to a clip here. And I want you to think about, as this plays forward, what do you hear? Right now, the answer is nothing. Hold on a second.
Technical glitches.
Ooh, not a great start. So let me just kind of jump out a little bit and maybe play. Oh, let me try this.
No.
Okay.
No.
Boy, that's a bit of a downer. Well, the answer is nothing. If you said nothing, if you hear me complaining about something not working, congratulations, you're correct. Let me just kind of preview what would have been playing here. It's a clip of what would have happened in 2018. A caller into a hair salon looking to make an appointment for a woman's haircut at sometime around 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And it's a pretty standard sounding conversation for about 2 minutes, or maybe a little less than that. And the idea when you listen to this is that it sounds pretty straightforward, that you hear these two women having a conversation, but that's not actually what you hear. What you end up actually hearing is one person involved in the conversation, and the other is not quite what you believe. This was actually a part of what we'll show you right now of a keynote delivered at the I/O conference in 2018 as part of the Google Duplex live demonstration. So here to introduce this is Google CEO Sundar Pichai.
See your mute
that's
on.
Interesting. Man. Yeah. Let's get this out of the way here. I wonder if it's because I muted something else along the way. Oh, you sneaky guy. Can't move that out. Let me try this. Let me jump out here and restart here. Kind of spoil things along the way. I can't get this thing out of here.
All right, I'm going to help you out.
Please do. You got that?
You are going to take a moment and just refresh that.
Here we go. Let me do this for a moment. I'll go ahead and pause out. Hey, thank you very much for, so like this is one of the reasons we're really appreciative of being able to come through this with a global gig to kind of work through some of the things that would let us here. This is probably going to be a little bit better. I think I'm ready to go. I think I've got it. Is it okay if I share now?
Yeah.
All right. Let me go ahead and share that out. Okay.
No, still no audio.
I haven't started. I haven't shared yet.
Okay.
So that's going to be on me. Here we go. So I'm ready to go ahead and share this here. Let me start now.
Let's say you want to ask Google to make you a haircut appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
How can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a woman's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now. Okay, we have a 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks. Great. Have a great day. Bye.
That was really remarkable. I can remember the first time I saw that, and I thought to myself, this is really going to change the way that people interact with kind of standard tasks that they would normally have to do on their own. And we've seen that come to fruition somewhat over the last couple of years with making reservations for things like restaurants. And I think there was a story that came out, kind of a profile on this technology, where at first they weren't quite sure how to answer these because they came through the caller IDs as outside of like a restaurant's area code. So they weren't certain about how to handle it. But I mean, think about that. Like that. Think about how much time that takes out of your schedule, and you know, you don't even have to be there for the conversation for that to happen for you.
It's just to make me wonder: am I talking to a person, or am I not?
Well, with regards to what that might be, you know, the interesting point is that it allows a lot of what would be very straightforward objectively to, you know, be handled outside of our own necessity. So, you know, it's an interesting kind of shift in the way that we kind of interact and move forward. But, you know, we want to leverage this in education, right? We don't want to necessarily have it take the place of us while we're there, but there are a lot of things that we can do right now. So what are we going to do with this session? We want to make sure that we understand kind of the structure of voice-activated applications. We want to make sure that we have an opportunity to explore the, you know, things like ethics and privacy issues, as well as digital safety around some of these tools that our students might have interactions with. How might we utilize these in the different varieties of classroom environments that we find ourselves in right now? Virtual environments, hybrid, physical, whatever your instructional setting looks like at this moment. How are voice assistants being utilized? And then we're going to walk you through the process of actually building a very simple voice app using the Google Action Center. Now, we do want to preface this in advance by just kind of letting you know that the means of interacting and building these tools is constantly evolving and changing. What you would see here today may quickly sunset and rise and give rise to another means of creating and building these tools. But we want to at least use this as an opportunity to dip your toes into the water of building voice apps. So with that, I wanted to go ahead and kind of move forward into kind of what the current state is in regards to digital assistants in schools. And we say in schools very loosely, because even the idea of a school right now is kind of up in the air. But generally, as far as when we're talking about digital assistants, the physical smart speaker itself, generally, those are not approved or recommended by developers as far as having the physical product always on, always listening in classrooms right now, Clay.
Yeah, the classrooms have. I mean, you think about it. We have a lot of information, personal information with our students that we don't know where it kind of goes, who has it. So we got to be really careful about what we specifically use in the classroom. So whatever you do keep that in mind as you're exploring this. There are guidelines surrounding things like FERPA, things like photo and video requirements. If you think about it, when we're talking about photo and video requirements, we don't have anything for a voice requirement. How do you go ahead and get somebody signed off for your voice? And there's also other myths that are surrounding this. One of the big myths is that your information is being used, and oftentimes it's not the case. If the teacher's going ahead and setting up the Google Assistant under the teacher's account, then it's actually not the student's information that's going to be used. And it's only, and when you think about it, it's a transcription that's being used, voice to text, which is often used in education already. So a voice assistant isn't that far away from voice to text.
So the main key is the idea that the audio is processed off-site, and even that technology is evolving right now. The reason that the cloud is utilized is because it takes so much storage to be able to process that information using the engines that are built for for AI and machine learning. However, those are getting smaller and smaller. So once they get to a point where they can fit on a physical device, they would no longer need to be processed off-site and then returned quickly.
Which we're pretty much there.
Just about.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting with a digital assistant, we think about what we consider a digital assistant. And a lot of people associate like the Nest or the Home or like the little Puck from Amazon, Alexa, or the Echo Dots as the digital assistant, when really it's more of the programming built in that allows for that interaction to take place. So we're talking about, you know, what a digital assistant actually allows us to do that might be different than, say, like a simple voice search that you may have utilized if you see the microphone icon on Google. You know, digital assistants are capable of actually performing tasks, kind of like what you heard on that call at the I/O conference. They do allow you to interact with physical devices. You know, you may have a light bulb that is synced up with the Google Assistant, and then you can change the dimness or the setting or turn it on or off, or even, you know, change it a color. You can have that physical interaction through a digital assistant once you link things together. And yes, it is capable of voice search, so you can reference information quickly. It's also able to interface with services. You can use a digital assistant in order to, say, start the next episode of The Queen's Gambit on Netflix. That's your point of reference for when this is recorded, in case this goes into the future. Queen's Gambit was on fire at this moment. We're not talking Tiger King. It's also driven by machine learning. So the idea that it constantly evolves the way that people ask and process information so that it can refine the results that you receive back. And generally, and this might actually be kind of straying away. We might be moving away from this, Clay, if I'm not mistaken. You would frame your input using a command. So, for example, you would have some sort of cue to activate a digital assistant to start listening, something like an OK Google or something along those lines.
Yeah, that command is used so that it doesn't necessarily just go off.
You see?
Like
you
that.
Guy.
But so that you can go ahead and really cue it up so that it takes on that information from there. But there's now much more use of continuous conversations, where once you start the conversation, you keep the conversation going.
I think I just activated assistants worldwide. I could do a lot of damage with that now that I have that information, ladies and gentlemen. Do not tempt me.
Hey, Google.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay.
Don't do it. You're going to put... We're already struggling here. Let's go ahead and let's look at, you know, why this is so relevant right now. And it's only improving. A lot of the stats that you're going to see here actually come from 2018, but it's only improved since then. In the U.S. alone, about 46% of people who have access to voice assistants actually end up using them. And that is inclusive of not just, you know, one, you know, brand and one device, but anybody who might have a digital assistant through their smartphone or speaker. With that, when you look at the average ages of smart speaker owners, let's talk about smart speaker owners, people who actually do bring in something like a Home or an Echo. About 53% of those users are between the ages of 18 and 36, another 32%, 37 to 52. So let's extrapolate that here. 85% of all smart speaker owners fall within the general ages of the guardians and the parents of the families that we as educators serve. These devices are in the hands and homes of our families, of our students. The capacity to interact with them exists. But what are they using them for? It's a pretty wide array of utility there. Generally, the number one use of smart speakers is for playing music. It's a digital jukebox that you have pretty handy access to. Beyond that, though, once you get past that, just over 40% of smart speaker users in 2018 use them to ask questions, general inquiries. And it could be about something factual for, you know, homework help. It could be a straight up calculation. It could be some information about your hometown. But not too far behind that, it was interesting to see shopping come in. So basically to make a quick purchase or to reach out and find more information about something that you might want to buy. Communication is starting to pick up. People are starting to make calls for this. send messages, even within a home. If you have multiple speakers, a broadcast is really helpful, so that if you need to reach out to everybody at once with a quick message, you can do so without having to send a mass text, as well as setting reminders. The idea of, hey, like, here's a timer. Remind me at this time to, to turn the oven off, or set an alarm for 5 a.m. so I don't oversleep. People are starting to utilize these for more and more things. And, those top, let's say the numbers 2 through 5 are really significant as far as really changing the daily lives of a lot of our families that we interact with. And so, what does this mean for education? It gives us a chance to actually, once we have an understanding of how these are designed and built, we can actually create meaningful apps for our students to interact with meaningful content that we want them to practice and become more familiar with. So, Clay, I'm going to go ahead and take my screen back. Let's talk a little bit about how we can actually build a voice app using the Actions console on Google.
Sure. Yeah. I'm going to share my screen. Not sure if it's up. We should be okay now. So
we got you.
Excellent. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and build some actions, and there's a lot that you can do with this, with what we're going to go through. But what you can do with voice assistance is something that I've been playing with, and I'll just go ahead and demonstrate real quick. My hands, we see my hands right now, and I can say, James, previous slide. We doing it? No.
There was some activity there.
James, next slide. There we go. James, next slide.
I'll put my hands up too, guys, because let's
James,
have some
slide.
Let's have some realization of what's happening here.
James, previous slide. So you're hearing right now that it's and this is in development, as you can tell.
Oh, it did it! It did it!
It did. No, that was me. That was me clicking. That was me doing it.
I was watching your hands.
My hands dropped down. So, the idea behind this is that I've just gone ahead and built a quick extension that listens for the language and then goes ahead and moves and advances the slides and does those sorts of things. So there's a lot of things that we can do with these voice assistants to make our world and lives just a little bit easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to play around with some trivia, basically. Devin knows all about trivia, so we'll definitely be using him as a resource. If you haven't had a chance yet, do take a moment and complete that hometown trivia. That submit your response. Just take a moment, drop it in there. That bit.ly, finish that up for us while we go through this. So if you're going to go ahead and proceed with this, I'm going to recommend that you use your personal account rather than your school account. Schools often shut off the ability to do this sort of development. So just keep that in mind. And what I've just done is I've dropped into actions.google.com, actions.google.com, and that's going to take you into the main Google Assistant development section. So there's a lot of other information in here, including case studies. But what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into it by going to the Actions console. When we go to the Actions console, you'll get a list of projects that you might have, and you're going to start by creating a new project here. So the Actions console is what is used for Google Assistant. When you work on and build an Actions console, you can go ahead and actually publish it, and then it's available for anybody to load into their Google Assistant. In this case, I'm just going to throw in a test, global egg. So this is going to be mine. You would have to create your own project with a unique name. So in that case, that is actually a globally unique name that is owned by me. And we're being asked, what kind of an action do you want to build? So we're gonna use that game action, and like I said, we're gonna play with some trivia, but we're not gonna do actual trivia. We are going to. Oh, I think we just Google has changed something on us already. Good job into custom. There we go. Devin, am I going crazy here, man?
Shouldn't be. Let's go back to game. And let's go with...
Google has already changed things on us.
Do you have a project that has already been built that we can import?
I don't
spreadsheet into?
Actually work through this process.
Okay.
Trying again. Food ordering anything? Yep, that's unfortunately going to function. So Google has taken a bunch of these actions and they are changing things around on them. And it looks like the one that we are looking for, they have removed.
This is something. Let me see if I can search around for this one. Here's what I want to kind of, there we go.
Got it.
Okay, we're there. So we had to kind of random. So basically what we're looking for, ladies and gentlemen, is a flashcards template. This is just one way that you can build a game-based voice app. And the reason we want to do that is because we want students to be able to interact. Now, what you did get to see there, as far as some of the templates that you can build games around using voice apps, one was Jungle Escape. You could basically make it a choose your own adventure. And if that's something you want to prepare for students, you can use the Actions console to do just that. They are constantly changing some of these. You know, if you're familiar with GimKit, you know that sometimes those modes come and go. And right now, that's kind of what is going on with some of the features of voice app development, because it is such a nascent field for, you know, people who are just kind of getting to dip their toes into this to get a handle on. So it is still available through the search if you look for flashcards Action Console. So be aware that some of these may be sunsetting before you start building them. But what we want to do here is we want to model kind of what's going to be around that you can interact with.
I think, yeah, even this project is gone. There's nothing actually here.
Wow. You know what we can do then? Let's take a look at the Jungle Escape. Let's just see what's in there. I'm kind of curious.
All right. So I'm going to hop back to actions at google.com. Going to the Action Console. New project. Geg. Jungle.
Ooh.
Create.
I feel like that should be another event coming up.
Should be. Jungle Escape. Start building. And it's funny, we just looked at this a week ago and everything was
here a week ago, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. You are seeing two grown men panic in real time in front of the world. I hope the entertainment value is high.
So what it's doing right now is creating a Google Cloud project associated with something called Firebase. Firebase is a quick app builder. It helps to quickly create applications that are ready to be logged into. Okay. Unfortunately, I think that this one also is not fully baked.
So walk us through kind of what we're looking at here as far as the structure of what these look like, because I think that is going to be really important information that want to start exploring this on their own.
So they've just updated this. This is the Actions console, and the Actions console is where we can actually develop these pieces. There's an invocation. An invocation is what starts something. So in this case, we can start settings, we can start the main invocation, or we can start playing a game. The playing game looks to be what the main one is, and it has a flow here of what happens. We say something like, I want to play a game, and then it starts to do things where after it does that, it starts the playing of game, and it goes into start. And the start is the scene here. So it jumps into start, and it looks like it gives you some information and provides a conditional. So in here, it asks you, do you want to do something? And you give it some information, and it proceeds from there. So let's actually test this out. We can test it by clicking test. And it's going to enable the test.
What's nice about testing in the Actions console is you can test out using typed text to respond, or you can use your voice if your microphone is paired up and attached.
Cloud deployment failed. So it is, unfortunately, and Google does have an outage right now, so this could be related.
Oh.
As if things weren't going completely wrong here. Cloud function deployment failure. So yeah, it's a complete loss, unfortunately.
You know, it really is interesting to see how much of the development and the deployment is based on the cloud. And you know, that's generally true with a lot of the other voice assistant developers with, you know, Apple and Alexa. They're generally cloud-based too. There isn't a lot of online structuring you can do.
No, yeah, you're relegated to servers all over the world, and when something goes wrong, it's at a larger scale than just at your computer and desk, unfortunately. So, Devin, I'm sorry. I don't think we're getting anywhere.
I am super sorry for everybody viewing as well. I hope you were at least entertained by this this experience. But I mean, it is really reflective of how rapidly this field is changing. It wasn't too long ago that most of these voice apps were built just with voice in mind. A lot of them now are starting to incorporate visuals as well, now that we're moving into smart displays too. So what you know, ultimately what we'd like to be able to do is, you know, see how your general teachers, I mean, because think about how far we've come. I like to reflect on it like this. About 10 years ago, the realm of presentations and slide decks was basically the entire domain of like business or high-end graphics companies that work in media. And within a decade, that's become an integral part of the academic experience as far as presenting information and knowledge. And I feel like with voice assistants, this field, for the most part, really has only existed within the realm, as far as development, of, you know, programmers for the last 5-6 years, as long as it's really been at the forefront. Now, I mean, within the last year or so, there was a point where there were templates available that you could utilize and bring forward to just your general user educators, where they could build out, and it was amazing. You could build out a trivia game that was based on flashcards or multiple choice. You know, in all transparency, what we were able to, what we were ready to share with you and build with you was a voice-activated trivia game based on hometown trivia, where it would throw a question at you. You can give an answer, and if you're wrong, it says, okay, do you want a hint? And it would provide you with a hint that was typed in that you had prepared. And then when you get it right, it also gives you a follow-up piece of information. That was something that anybody could have built. And a lot of people just did it for entertainment or amusement, but it really wasn't being utilized in education. And now I feel like we're about to experience a shift here, because the way that people are going to interact with this is going to be very different. Now, I will say this. If you are very familiar with the structure of coding and the libraries required, a lot of these are going to be available to interact with on GitHub in the next few months or so. Like, it's going to be shifting that way until somebody makes it more accessible. And that won't take long, I don't anticipate.
Yeah, I think we'll be there sooner than we think. There's been a lot of changes to everything that's going on with the Actions console and Google, and the ability to control the smart assistant screen with your voice. And I think that's going to be a big win in the coming years.
Well, I'm glad somebody gets a win, because it's not us.
Not us. No.
I tell you what, though, I want people to at least leave this with a brighter light on how this is, developing. And if they feel like they're ready to make a deeper dive, regardless of, the format and the speaker and the digital assistant that they prefer, or that they know that their families interact with, I want to make sure that you know where to go with that. So we put together just this very brief card for you. Google has their own. Amazon is worth exploring. It's a different structure, but it is a bit more graphical as far as how it lays it out. So if you're good with building flow charts, if you live in that world, if that's a comfortable space for you, check out what Amazon has built out in blueprints. Siri is a little tougher to get into. There may be some hoops that you have to jump through, but if that's a space that you're comfortable with, by all means, visit developer.apple.com/Siri. There are so many different spaces that are really starting to invite more and more people into the development component. So I just want to thank everybody for your patience and your understanding for, tonight, as well as the field in general. Look, if anything else, I'm glad, Clay, that we had the chance to have this conversation about where this is headed. Some of, a behind the scenes lens of the processes behind it, as well as kind of a reevaluation of what these things can do. I've used voice assistants for, simple calculations, but I've also used them for, some things like reading a story or setting schedules so that I have a scene in my house that's built a right way, activating lights. I've found, and, you tell me kind of if you're in the same veins, I found that the way that I interact with the things around me has changed significantly once I figured out how to utilize voice. Not so much as a gimmick, but as a means of accessibility. And, I think really interestingly right now, when we get into physical spaces once again, voice assistants might play a deeper role in how we interact with our environment.
Yeah, for me, my entire house is voice activated anywhere I can do it. TV, lights, lock, everything. Coffee maker. I like to tell my machines what to do and them to respond.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in with us. Clay, thank you so much for your time. We have some work to do. We'll get to it. I want to thank everybody watching as well. In the words of the great Jay-Z, you could have been anywhere in the world today and you're here with us, and we appreciate that.
Thanks so much.
Go rest up, everybody. Have yourselves a wonderful evening. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Bye.